Sorry, we picked a bad weekend for you to do this. You've got a busy weekend. I'm sorry.
Oh my goodness, it's been something already.
Oh goodness. Well, we won't. We'll move through this. Try to do this quickly so that everyone can get on with their holiday weekend. So welcome. So I thought maybe first, Sheila, if you don't mind, if you want to give us an update on those three.
Yes, and I apologize. I left my notes on my desk at work, but Major Nibers and Lieutenant Leclerc were kind enough to meet with me to go over those three specific ordinances as it relates to police interference.
Okay.
And they provided very good information and insight, and updated one of them, said one of them had been updated, which they did send me, which I will forward on to the committee.
Okay.
And that was the resisting arrest one.
Okay.
For the very first one, 34.
3.
Can you read that to me?
Obedience to lawful orders required. It shall be unlawful for any person to refuse to obey a lawful order of any police officer given in the line of duty.
So they said that is always rarely used, and it's a secondary charge. So there would have to be some sort of original offense for an individual to be charged with that. So I appreciate meeting with them. They provided some good information, which I'll pass on to this team. But there are also some other folks that I'd really like to get their input on, as they have experience in working with revising such ordinances.
Awesome. That would be great. So thank you. Thanks for doing that. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. So I swear, guys, and I'm sorry I keep sending you guys stuff at the last minute. I'm trying to be more organized, and going forward, I'm really going to work on it. But I sent you guys last night. I think other than those three things, what we had left in this article was tobacco, which we were all going to kind of take a look at. And I thought it's very clear the state updated those statutes in 2014, and all the other municipalities brought theirs up to date, but ours is not. So I just went ahead and drafted the sort of updated statute. I think we're going to have to do anyway, because the way I understand it, we can have stronger penalties than the state, but we at least have to meet the state's statute. So I went through that, and we can just walk through it if you want, or if anyone has thoughts in the beginning they want to share. I don't know.
Well, I saw the question about the mixed use of 1 minute we're using age, and next minute we're using some other definition for the state statute. And I mean, just for our sake, I guess we should just settle on one and move with it, because it probably was
Or drafting.
Bad drafting on the part of whoever did it with the state. So that was one of my only comments.
Yeah, and I thought that would be something we could ask the city attorney or whoever, sort of whatever, if there's a organization that helps us do this. Is it better for us to just be consistent, or is it better to match the state? And I think it'd be better just to be consistent. But because I don't think it changes it. It's still the same age. So it's just weird. So I agree with you. I think it'd be better to be consistent, but all right. So I'll note that. Does everyone else think that would be good?
Yeah.
Okay. I think the other major thing to consider is whether or not rolling papers are included in the prohibited items. And I thought it was interesting. Clayton and Richmond Heights Clayton didn't. Well, maybe they did, but Brentwood and U City did not include rolling papers in theirs at all as a prohibited item. And I don't know why, like, I don't know if that was a conscious decision or because the state statute doesn't really have it in there either. So, but our old ordinance mentioned rolling papers in some instances. So I don't know if anyone has thoughts on that.
That's something I just certainly can look into.
Okay.
Because I remember a friend of mine, long story, there was a smoke shop in U City, owner died, a friend was executor, and it took years to sort out his estate, and the tobacco shop was one of them. And what I recall was there were very, very strict rules about purchase in the smoke shop if you were underage, and that included rolling papers.
Yeah.
And hookah,
Mhm.
whatever it's called, supplies. So I don't know if that, and they were in U City, but they were
Okay.
very, very strict about that. So I don't know where that came
Interesting.
from. I can ask him.
Okay. And I'm trying to think, you know what? I didn't go back and look at the county one to see if they have it restricted somehow in theirs.
I can pull that up real quick.
Have it right
I
here.
don't know, and maybe you know this, Sarah. What department would it be the health department that would come in and do checks and make sure? Okay.
Yeah, so
Then
we
yeah.
do the licensing, and so we work with planning to make sure they are outside of any buffer zones that have been set around like childcare centers, daycares, schools and churches. And then we'll do sort of like drop-in tests,
Yep.
that sort of thing.
That's, if memory serves me correctly, that's one of the things he had to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
And this does say, I'm looking at, oh no, that's ours. Our old one, sorry. Oh goodness, so many. Oh, here's the county. I mean, my thought is, what else are you going to use a rolling paper for other than, cigarette or marijuana? So like, I mean, but at the same time, I don't know. So I'd be curious to hear if there are any thoughts on why you would exclude it. Is there a good reason to exclude it? Is it, disproportionately applied against different groups of, I don't know. I'd be curious to hear what the argument would be for against it. Or they just literally copy the state statute and didn't even think about it, which is also seemingly what some of these did. So,
Well, I mean, how popular are rolling papers these days?
I don't know. I guess you're right.
I have no idea. And maybe they considered that when they decided to.
Yeah, that is true. Because even with marijuana now, like if you go to the store,
dispense, you can get the gummy, you can get.
Yeah.
So maybe we might want to check into that. Maybe if we check with those municipalities, they might give us an insight as to why they did it. Or was it just a slip up on their part? Yeah.
And I'm wondering if they just decided it could just be they just decided to copy the state statutes, verbatim, because those are the two too. When we get to it, they inserted the one about like liquid cartridge, some like liquid thing, and the other two didn't. So that could just be the reason. But I noted it and I thought we might as well, think about it. Okay.
Well, and I think like generally speaking, where like as this industry has innovated, like laws haven't been able to keep up because they've gotten too specific. Right. So if we've got a tobacco ordinance that doesn't include vaping, even though like there's nicotine and it's dangerous, like that's where there's been some sort of like disconnect. And so I'm wondering if rather than listing all of the specific, what I'll call like tobacco accessories, there's maybe a broader way to capture it. So we're not, 30 years down the line and there's some like new way of smoking that none of us ever anticipated.
That's a good point. I can look into that and see and expand my search. All right, to capture it. So it would be like any really, I think you'd probably define it like you said as accessories to.
Yeah,
smoking.
something like that. Yeah.
Because it's interesting because it's not illegal for an 18-year-old to buy like a pipe, or a 16-year-old to buy a pipe, or is that included in the,
It might be included in that.
it might be the, uh, oh, here. Well, vapor product includes only like electronic stuff. I don't,
I didn't,
that's a good point. That's an interesting point. All right, I'll look into that. All right. I guess I'm gonna make some notes on here. All right. Well, I can do this after. I'll make notes after. All right. So did anyone else have any other sort of general like things they wanted to point out about this? The other thing I did do, and I know we weren't in agreement on this, but I'm going to start, as we're going through this, I'm going to start drafting sort of a memo to city council, I guess, explaining our changes that I will have everyone look at and provide input in. But I think it'd be smart to start it now, since it's going to take us a while to do this, so we don't forget. But I did put 21 in here. I know we weren't all in agreement in that age, and I will note that, that's a point for them to discuss what age they want it to be. I'll sort of note, the reasoning why it would, like it matches the county, but other municipalities keep it at 18. So I just wanted to note that. I know we weren't necessarily all in agreement on that, but all right. So in this first definitions ordinance, the state statute, and then a couple of the ordinances put in this center of youth activities, but then it's never used anywhere. So my thought would be to delete it, unless we add something that says you cannot smoke near a center of youth activities.
what do we have for activities within so many feet of a school?
So we don't have anything right now for that, I don't believe, in the
Grade level.
Maplewood ordinances. Let me see.
It might be in the planning ones.
Okay, let me just search smoking in ours.
Because like the buffers for all of the medicinal marijuana
Okay,
facilities were planning ordinances. So it may not be here.
okay. So when I put in smoking, it brings up smoking or smoke, and I don't see anything. So let's make a note, and that's Sandy's.
And whether there are any federal statutes for facilities that receive federal funds, are they required to comply, and is the state then required to mirror, and then the localities are required to go along with?
So I did put in, last time we talked about like OSHA and OPM, and I looked up sort of their websites about smoking, and I put some links in the bottom of the document. OSHA does not have a regulation that addresses smoking in the workplace, except for a limited number of regulations that address smoking and other sources of ignition from a fire safety perspective. And then OPM prohibits, so they're just talking about federal buildings, but I know you're asking a different question. So I don't know, I'd have to do some research into that. But it's Executive Order 13058, which Clinton signed, which just says you can't smoke in front of air intake ducts. In the case of locations such as doorways and in courtyards, agency heads shall evaluate the need to restrict smoking in order to protect workers and visitors from environmental tobacco smoke, and may restrict smoking in those areas. And then smoking is banned in courtyards and within 25 feet of doorways on GSA controlled properties. Okay, oh, here it is. Okay, so you cannot smoke in any executive branch facility, interior space owned, rented, or leased by executive branch or of the federal government, but then there are certain accepted spaces. Residential accommodations in buildings owned, leased, rented by the government, portions of federally owned buildings leased, rented, or otherwise provided to non-federal parties, in places of employment in the private sector and other non-federal governmental units that serve as the permanent or intermittent duty station of one or more federal employees. So I don't know if that leased, but that's different. That's not someone getting federal funding. So
No, I don't know, or
I'm gonna guess no, if that's how those are pretty loose to me in terms of smoking, but I can research that.
yeah, those things you read sound like you would had to do with some kind of a federal facility.
Right.
It's about one that receives federal funds if they apply anything, or if it's just a local decision.
All right.
I can email Sandy about the planning.
Yeah.
Buffer zones.
I'm just gonna note here. Thank you, Sarah.
Mhm.
Okay, so I'll wrote, I'm gonna put it in here, our restrictions. Okay. And you're gonna follow up. Let's see. I think we got the most complicated section, guys. The whole code. This is a real interesting one. I mean, there's a lot. All right, here. So you're gonna follow up with Sandy. I can look through the ordinances too and look around. I just thought it was interesting. I just don't understand how, like, at a state level, like, the poorness in drafting of statutes, it still amazes me, like, you put a definition in here and then did not use it. And I even, like, searched all the statutes to see if it was used somewhere else, and it's not. So it's like they just, I don't know. All right. All right. So did anyone have any other thoughts about anything in that definitions section? I don't know. Did you guys even, you may not have even had a chance to read it. So, okay. And also, like we've said before, take time after, put your notes in. We can talk about it next time too. So the next one is the one that is about those cartridges. And it's what I think is weird about the statutes is, like, they repeat the same thing throughout, which is just kind of weird to me. Like, it's illegal to sell to someone under, and here we go, they use 21 instead of a minor. It's about sale through the mail, and then the safety stuff for the containers. And my thought is, like, are our police really going to be doing that? I mean, do we want them to? I would say no, but I don't know. I mean, they can always issue a state ticket for it, right? So, like, do they need a municipal level offense too, is my question. That's why we put it in here, I guess.
I guess we were talking about, are they just going to happen to be at that location at the time to make the bust? Or is someone going to call them? There was language in there about what, the employee, if the employee does it, then the employee is going to be subject to penalty. But if the owner or the employer, there are instances where the employer could be held accountable as well. Who's going to be the bust? Busted. Sarah, I think you had talked about the medical group. No authority to. I mean, yeah, who's on first to say that it was done wrong? or if the machine was broken and somebody got into it, and then somebody's gonna have to prove, well, they were innocent, they were not mentally culpable in intentionally trying to undermine, the security of this machine to do something illegal, whatever, however it's, you know, I mean, it seems to me the police are gonna just have to be there, and then they're gonna have to, make proofs to issue a ticket, I mean, what's their motivation?
So I think that might be the next ordinance, which we can talk about now, which is fine. So my thing is with that, I think with the vending machine, are you talking about the vending machines?
Well, yeah, that's why.
Okay,
Just
so
on the premises.
right. So that one, I mean, I really wonder how many of those there are left anyway. But I think in that case, we're simply matching the state statute. So like, if this cops go in, they can issue a municipal violation instead of a state violation. That's the only distinction. And I think what you're doing there is perhaps the penalty is lesser at a municipal level, maybe, or it can be. I know right now it matches, and we can make it more actually, but that I agree with you. I mean, I think a vending machine is one that they'll never see. I mean, I think any of these, unless they witness it, because I don't know if they stop a kid with cigarettes and they're like, I got him at QT. I mean, I don't know what proof. You wouldn't really be able to hold the owner accountable. So you're right. In all of these, they're going to have to witness it, which was the case anyway with our old one. So, but for this the one that I was talking about, which I have bracketed, I put it in second. Literally, it's talking about the liquid containers have to meet the tamper-proof thing, and that's the one. Like, I don't think we necessarily need that ordinance. Richmond Heights and Clayton left it out. Brentwood and U City put it in, but again, I think Brentwood and U City just copied the state statutes like in total. But I wanted to see your thoughts about whether you think we should include it or just leave it out.
Well, like with the vending machines, I guess one of my questions is, how prevalent are these things?
Yeah.
I mean, how many exist in Maplewood,
right.
Businesses, or, do they exist? I guess if they don't exist, are we anticipating a resurgence of them, or are they dead and gone? So that's my question.
Yeah, I think if this, I'm kind of the opinion of, if the state has it, I don't know that we also need it.
Yeah.
I think I would be shocked if vending machines made a comeback. I'm happy to be wrong about that. But I don't see a world in which we return to cigarettes and vending machines.
So
if the state has it, then we're covered either way.
Well, so I just want to clarify, this particular ordinance I'm talking about is 34401, which is only to do with like these nicotine liquid containers, basically, and whether they're safe. So vending machines is the next one, and it's in with a bunch of other stuff. So my question is, do you think we need to have a municipal ordinance that if someone does not have a liquid nicotine in a tamper-proof thing, that's a violation? Yes. I would say, so you want a municipal level.
Well, so that section also includes raising the age from the state level of 18 to 21.
Well, so that's also in the next one. That's what I'm saying. It's repetitive.
Yeah, 34401.
Yeah, so they're all repetitive. So then if you go to 34402, it actually says twice that it's illegal to sell to someone under 21. So that's the problem with some of these two. They're very repetitive, and it says the same thing over and over again. And so we have the illegal sale covered in 34402. So you know what? I think why don't we skip 401? Let's read 34402 and see if it has what we need, and then we can go back to 34401 and see if it has anything that's not in here that we would want it to have. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, and where do these sealed containers come from?
Well, and that's the thing, it's federal standards. I don't, yeah. All right, so let's skip that one for now, because I think it is confusing. So 34402. And I drafted it to match the state. But if you look at 34402A, it says it shall be unlawful to sell, provide, distribute, all those things. Just I put in 21. If you also look at C, so this is, and I want someone to tell me if you, other than that, C includes an entity if they say different things. So then it says no person or entity shall sell, provide, or distribute any tobacco product, blah, blah, to any minor. So then they use minor there. But then they include selling any individual cigarettes. And then they add the line about it doesn't apply to distribution by family members on property that's not open to the public. I personally think it would make more sense just to have A say it shall be unlawful for any person or entity to sell, blah, 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 and add that last sentence. And then just make C, it's illegal to sell individual cigarettes. But that seems clearer to me. But then my question, I guess, is for the lawyers, like, is it better just to match the state with its lack of clarity, or just clarify, make ours clearer? So anyway, I think that we would want to keep the vending machines in just because it matches the state statute. I agree with you that I don't think it's ever really going to be a issue, and it's there. I mean, I don't even know what bars in Maplewood would still have a vending machine. I mean, I could probably think of like 2, maybe, that would,
So you're gonna the same with the same penalties as the state is just gonna look just like the state statute all the way through.
And it does. I did note for the penalty. So if that's in section D, everyone matched the state in the amounts of them. We can make them higher if we want. That's up to us. But so that's something to think about. Let's see what else in this one. Yeah. Okay. So Stefan, you commented, I see that. So in 34402B, there was a line that said a determination of non-compliance may be made by a local law enforcement agency or the Division of Liquor Control. Oh, that's for the vending machines. I guess I just didn't understand why that was in there, if it was necessary, because it's an ordinance. So I don't know if anyone else has any thoughts on that.
Not particularly. Yeah.
All right. So maybe maybe that's something we can bracket and leave to see if city council wants to, I don't know, when they're going through. Let me just bracket it. It just seems weird. Like that's sort of what they're already doing.
Right. And that power is like granted to them at the beginning of the Maplewood Code. And
Yeah,
like the state would have the power to anyways. So
yeah,
it's kind of strange.
yeah. And it's only has to do with the vending machines. So I don't know, maybe there's, I don't know. All right. Okay, let me just see. So I guess in terms of like making it more what, I guess one thing we could do, so for this, does it make sense? I pointed out like how it repeats it and then it seems like there's a clearer way to do it. Do you think the best approach for this is maybe we put it in for council as the state has it, and then we could provide that suggested alternative way of drafting it where it's clearer and they can decide if they want to match the state statute or want to make it clear? Do you think that's a better way?
Well, yeah, that gives them an option.
Yeah. Okay. Because oh, go ahead, Sarah.
I would maybe flip the order of presentation. So like if we are suggesting something, but also want to provide the state statute as a comparison point, then I would provide first like what we suggest. And then, so include both, but put whatever we're recommending first.
And so, okay, so do people think that our recommendation should be the clearer way?
Well, what she said makes sense. Have ours first, and then they can look down and see what the state says, and then they can always go back.
I guess that's my question is, do people agree that it would be better to put it in a clearer way? I guess that's the determination I'm trying to make first.
Yeah.
Sheila, are you saying no? Sorry, I couldn't.
No, I don't have a thought.
An
one way or the
opinion.
other.
All right. So I'll update it to read, and you guys can nope, that's I will and everyone, you guys will have a chance to look back through it and correct anything. So I will update it. Okay. All right. Makes sense. The next, I guess, question in this section would be the penalty. Do people just want to leave it what the state has, or do you want to make it stricter? Sarah, you're saying state.
Yeah.
Everyone, all right. That's fine with me. All right. In E, this exemption. So this is where you have an exemption as a owner. This is where if your employees have done like a training program or whatever, then you won't be charged with you won't be penalized. I've just noted the state statute only referenced tobacco products, but all the other municipalities updated theirs to include all of the things. And then what I didn't understand, but if we're going to make ours clearer, then, well, I guess it would still be why it only references a violation of C, which includes the individual cigarettes and the general selling of cigarettes. But then what's the point of that? Goes back to me, what's the point of A? Like A is also a violation. So if we're going to change it to be clearer, then that I will update this to reference A and C, because now you'll have what was in C in two different places. But it always just gets me. Who drafts these things? I just cannot, it just makes me so mad. All right, so so in E, I thought it was interesting that the in-house training, that the compliance that says shall not exceed 90 minutes, which I found like, okay, so God forbid you do too much training on this. And I tried to go to the Division of Liquor Control's website, and it would not, there was no website to go, like it kept saying there was no website to go to. So I'm going to look into that and just see what their training is. But I was just going to say, I think it should be at least a minimum of 90 minutes. But if the training provided is not that, then I guess, but so I'm gonna look into that, try to go back to their website again and see if they
Yeah.
have one.
I almost wonder if like requiring a certain amount of time is worth it at all, right? Like if I can learn it in 30 minutes, great, and retain it, right? And not make the same mistake again, then why do I need to do another 60 minutes of it? I don't know if there's like an
91
educational, philosophical
If you
thing
do
here.
91 minutes, they're gonna have to pay you more money.
Oh,
Yeah, I was
There
just
it is.
curious. I just found it weird. But you know, and maybe that was a compromise between the people against this ordinance and the people, you know what I mean? Like that could have been a compromise to get it done. But I just thought it was, and we don't have to keep it at that because we can make it stricter. So, but if there's no option,
Sarah's right. 90, 30, 27, 19. You know,
so you just want to leave it? Is that what I'm getting?
just take out the
no,
time requirement altogether.
yeah,
Okay.
Is my proposal.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I like that. right.
it's irrelevant.
Good idea. All right. All right. In G, I just noted that section reference, like in Richmond Heights, they also have a separate, and they repeated their tobacco thing in their offenses concerning minors, but all the other ones referenced the violation of the ordinance that has to do with the sign. So I just updated ours to match that because that means we don't have a separate, doesn't make sense to repeat it either. I also didn't understand, and maybe I'm wrong, so you guys tell me. It says the owner of an establishment shall be guilty of an offense established in subsections C and D. The D is the penalty. So I don't know how it would be violating the penalty. So it seems like it should just say C, but ours would change to say A and C because we're going to modify it. But do you want me just to leave it or do you want me to update it so it makes?
It should make sense. They shouldn't violate a penalty.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah. All right. I mean, unless, so you guys read D and tell me if you think if there's a way that you could find.
No, I
Like
think our instinct here is
Oh,
right.
okay. All right. I want to make sure because sometimes, when you're doing this, you get real into it and then you can't, it's hard to step back and be like, am I crazy or, all right. I do need to update this. To reference A and C. All right. And then the last section in there, the appeal right. I don't know that we need that. That's like a state level appeal. Brentwood and U City kept it in, but again, I think they just wholesale copied these. Richmond Heights and Clayton didn't. Do we want to leave that as a legal question for the lawyers of whether or not we have to have that?
Yeah, because if we don't have a body that would actually hear that appeal, then I don't know why we would have it. And I don't know if it's like a staff function, but like at the county level for different appeals within the health code, we have commissions that hear that.
Right.
And so, yeah, that's a question I think for the city attorney.
That's what I think. Okay. Well, because it also says you use the procedures in the state statute. So it's like a state level appeal, which doesn't make sense.
A local municipality can do it, but they just are going to follow.
Oh, you're right. That's true. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. Okay, so this is the one where it's the next one. Or does anyone have anything else about that? That's really like sort of the meat of the selling and distributing. Does anyone have any other comments about that one? No? Okay. So the next one is a kid who's caught with it. And so I know we talked last time that about the whole like smoking cessation and like, do we have whatever? When I looked at that again, it says if available. So like the second offense or after, you still get it taken away, but then it says and complete a tobacco education program if available. So my thought was just to leave it in there in case at some point there becomes an available program, but we don't currently have one. So it would still just be if a cop catches you with it again, they take it away. Does that make sense? Okay. I do want to confirm though I'm going to put a note here actually. I do want to confirm with the police that they don't issue any ticket for like, I just want to make sure there's nothing issued that ends up on the minor's record here. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know there's no like fine, but I just want to make sure. So, okay. And in that instance, I don't know how they'd even track unless they know the kid, if it's your first or your third offense. All right. All right. Did anyone have any other questions or thoughts on that one? Nope. All right. Next one is this retail sales tax license. I assume that's a state county function. You have to have one to sell it.
Yeah, it's a state, you have to have a state license, and then you probably also have to have a
You have to have a
manual
county
license.
or yeah, okay.
Oh yeah, and you have to do inspections by the county. Yes, that's a lot.
Because that was the problem with that 7-Eleven when it closed, they couldn't get, because they were so close to school, they couldn't get another, and that's a lot of what they sold was cigarettes, I guess. Or they switched owners, and so that's why it closed, supposedly. So Clayton had also a business license to sell. I don't know that we have that in Maplewood, but I thought I would just double check with the city.
I mean, we probably don't have one specific to tobacco,
Right.
but we would have a general one.
Right.
In the
And
business, in the business license, which is taxes, which is coming up right now, right before the end of the fiscal year, there is something in there about what you sell or vending machines. There's an extra tax.
okay.
So it's not a license per se, but you are paying extra.
Okay. So I thought that could be a question just to make sure before we leave it off, to make sure that we're not inadvertently accidentally leaving something out. But I'm sure there's no special. I agree, like it's probably not a special license, but Clayton has one, so I don't know. All right, so I'll check with I'll put that on my list of stuff to sort of check with staff about. All right. So the next one is the signs. The sign you have to have by state law to put up. My thing was, I don't know why people left, why it says county law, because so the state one says it's a violation of state law. And U City and Brentwood left that in. And maybe this is a legal question for Jackie, but I think it should just say it's a violation of law. I mean, county law, we're not enforcing a county law here. And some people put county in. Sorry, go ahead, Sarah.
Well, I'm wondering too if the county requires signage in addition to this. And so if we in the county require the same signage, then that's one sign instead of two.
Right, but it just says yeah. So they just have a violation of county law, so it's a violation of multiple laws. And so I guess my thing is why that might be a question for like the attorney is that does the sign have to comply with state law, county law and city law for you to issue. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, to issue a state ticket, does it have to say state? To issue a municipal ticket, does it just have to say law?
So the county's sign is, it is a violation of the law for tobacco products or electronic smoking devices. So
then that was my suggestion, just put law of the law. So, all right.
sweet.
I'll put that in. I'll take county out, and then I'll put that on the question though for the attorney, just in case. You know, for some reason the county got it wrong. I'm sure they didn't. All right.
Well, I'm not always so sure, but I appreciate that.
All right. All right. So next is just the individual sale. I'm guessing that my only comment was like the state law must have just had packs of cigarettes or smokeless. They all just had packs of cigarettes or smokeless tobacco products. But Richmond Heights added these other things in, I guess. In my opinion, it would make sense to make it the things that you are prohibiting consistent, but maybe there's no way to have an individual alternative nicotine. You could still have an individual like cartridge, right? Or no,
Yeah.
right? So I think that's what it's trying to prohibit, is like selling one.
Unless it's behind the counter, I guess.
Right. Right.
You can't sell loose cigarettes or
Right. And this is even saying, like, I think this is like, they don't want, so maybe that's the problem. They don't want like an individual pack of cigarettes out where a kid could just take it.
Right.
So that's why it has to be back. I guess maybe the same does not apply for, I don't know. I smoked before they had all this electronic stuff, so I don't know how it works.
I'll tell you, in Canada, only certain entities are allowed to sell tobacco products. And if it's for, say, a gas station,
Yeah.
all tobacco products have to be shielded, like, so you don't see them. It's almost like
Okay.
the filing cabinet. And that's all cartridges, cigarettes, I think, and things like
Okay.
that.
So it seems like, I don't know. I think it doesn't hurt to put those
I don't
things
think so.
in. Okay.
No.
Yeah. All right. So we'll leave it. Sounds good. All right. So then, next we have just the proof of age part. In subsection B, said, I don't know why it says the request of any agent of the Division of Liquor Control, like why the municipalities left that in. I would replace that with law enforcement agent, because that's who's going to be. Oh, I see. I guess, I don't know. Does anyone have thoughts on that? Why that?
Well, because I think maybe there's a world in which the state employees enforcing this are not law enforcement. Like, I don't know if the Division of Liquor Control is part of the Missouri State law enforcement arm, but they may have enforcement activities that they do.
Okay.
So
it's just, so I guess, so it looks like the context of it is like, it's someone presenting their ID, but it's to whom they're presenting it. And it's the owner, employee, then it's the agent of the Division of Liquor Control, which I guess if you had like someone spot checking. So my thought would be just to cover our bases in case that would be a local law enforcement officer. We could leave that, but then also add in law enforcement agent, just so that we're covered. Does that make sense? So it's all three of them, because I think that's what Clayton did. Oh no, they replaced it. But I just think there could be a reason you would have that, like the Division of Liquor Control spot checking, and then you could potentially have a Maplewood cop, and then you also have the owner. Does that make sense? Yeah. All right.
Yeah, liquor control is public safety. With the
Okay.
state.
The other thing in that section is that the list of people that you're providing it to, it had registrant in the state statute. So I'm guessing maybe they mean registrant of a license. I don't know, but except for Clayton, the other three replace it with owner, which makes more sense, I think. So I
Yeah,
did that
'cause
here.
presumably the person who's applied for the license is the owner of the business, and that might be a requirement of that license.
Yeah. All right. And then the next thing they did, was at the end of that sentence in the state statute in Clayton, it said procured from a registrant, which doesn't make sense because it's only one of the people listed. So I just deleted it because I think the sentence is reading the ID. So it's aiding the owner, employee, or agent to determine whether that person is 21 to purchase or possess those things from, and then it said from the registrant, but that's not necessary. That's implied. You know, you're presenting your ID to purchase those from whomever you're presenting it to. So I just deleted it. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. And then reasonable reliance, last section. So it says that, reasonable reliance on proof of age. So if someone presented you an ID and you relied on it, that's a defense to the charge. But then it says no person shall be liable for more than one violation of B and C on any single day. So if they've not properly checked a license, so say they had 5 kids come in and they only get one charge. And I guess my question is, do you agree with that? Or should they receive 5 separate charges for that? Because we can change it. Like that would make it stricter, which is we're allowed to do.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
In just as an aside, in sports, let's say the game of basketball, 3 people check into the game. They want to come onto the floor, and we discover that all 3 numbers are wrong. They're not they're not who's listed in the book. Okay, that's a violation. So theoretically, you would say there would be 3 separate violations. But what the rule says is it's one violation. You can change it, and it applies to all 3. We don't give you 3 separate violations. We just give you one violation for all 3. And then if somebody else comes in after that, we just keep rolling. And so I guess here, one a day, you got your one today, you're down to one more tomorrow. Can't have everything in another 24-hour period. Who's keeping track? Who's writing it down?
Well, so I guess the police would have to, they have to become familiar with all these. So they would have to know that, say they go to a gas station in Maplewood and this gas station has a pattern of selling cigarettes to underage kids, they're only going to get one ticket each day they do that, even if they sold on 50 separate occasions to different kids, right? Like that's the way I read this. And so to me, that's a little problematic. Like, why should we only be issuing one ticket? If you remove that, it's I guess the officer's discretion, right? They don't have to issue 5, but they could. And so that's what I think we're deciding, is that if you, and I mean, this is not a make it or break it thing for me. My thought is, if you're going to break the law, then you should pay the penalty for it. Like if you keep doing it. But I also, you know, I mean, I think at some point you're going to have, I think there's like a state, like I think the city could report them to the state. And then if there's repeated violations, right, then they could lose their license. So maybe that's
something I would be interested in asking my friend who.
okay.
Because is it excessive? How is that equitable? Is it against the person? I would like to ask him that.
Yeah,
and
great.
How that was handled.
It's not
Alright.
coming out 3, why not 4 violations before we drop the hammer? Here's a question, and maybe it's addressed somewhere else. I just don't know. At what age do we have an ordinance that limits or establishes the age of which a person can be employed at a facility that sells a myriad of retail products, but includes this? So are they eligible to sell these things, but it can't sell the tobacco products? But if they do, what happens? I just throw it out there. I'm not sure if there's an age minimum.
So typically with alcohol, there is, and that you're raising like a really good point about this, is that raising the age to 21, does that affect like the ability of a gas station to staff its gas station? Like, do they have to then have someone who is 21 if it's like, say, a gas station that doesn't already sell alcohol? My guess is that most gas stations or places that sell cigarettes also sell alcohol, so that person already has to be 21. But you're raising a really valid question about, we don't have a municipal ordinance, I don't think, but I'm sure there's a state law in a county, but I don't know.
Yeah,
It's a good question.
It just popped to mind when we were talking about who's going to be last.
I'm going to add this to the bottom here.
Whether or not police officers are keeping a record and all those things. So equity.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. It's something that changing this, or at least that provision, could have an effect on. So that's a good question.
On the definitions.
Sorry, let's make a note here. I'll look into that and see. That's a right. Yeah. Because you'd hate to create a situation where someone loses their job because they can't do that. But my guess is that the county is 21, they may have something, so I can look there too. So that was it, like on the basics sort of tobacco ordinance. I want to go back up though to that 401, because that's the one that and revisit and see if we think we need it, because to me the only thing this is doing is saying that the police can give someone a ticket if they are selling tobacco products through the mail to someone under 21. And if someone is selling a liquid container that doesn't meet the child proof standard, they would issue a ticket. I don't personally think our police need to have this ordinance. I feel like that's maybe what it would do would give a secondary ticket, likely type of a thing, or how are they going to monitor if someone's selling through the mail? And even if they are, they can issue a state ticket for it. Like because they have the power to either issue a violation of state law or municipal law. So they always have this. If they find it, they can issue a violation of the state law. And I feel like that's enough. But if people want this in here, we can throw it in there.
I think the only thing I'd want to make sure we preserve is in the 401 section also includes that it's subject to sales tax.
Okay.
And so we want to make sure like those products continue to be subject to sales tax. But beyond that, I agree.
Isn't
Would
there a
they-
state and federal regulation on this anyhow?
Yes, and that's what it's referring to. It's referring to the federal code. Like the state law refers to the federal code, and
Right.
so again, the
So I don't
sales
know.
tax. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Sheila.
I don't know if we need it.
Okay, the sales tax I'll look at, Sarah, because I'm wondering if that could be covered somewhere else. You know, so but that's a good point. So I will research that, and if we want it, we can always just put it in a separate, like an ordinance that just deals with sales tax or something, and take the rest of it out. Okay. Oh, listen to that birdie. No, that's good. It's pretty. I was like, I want to be. I love that you're sitting outside. It's nice out there.
First thought was somebody's phone's ringing.
Just birds.
I love it. Oh, it's pretty out. All right. So the last piece of this, and I honestly did not have time to get through and make a comparison, is, and we talked about it last time, is the smoking in public places and smoking on city property. And I would like to sort of look at it a little more, but I did find Brentwood has an ordinance when I went back about smoking in public places. And I didn't find it looks similar to Clayton. So I thought maybe it was a state law, but I didn't find a state law. So I don't know, because we're already at 10. So maybe if people want to look at that and think about it more. And I didn't find anyone else with city property like the Clayton one. Brentwood has one about in their parks, but it's not prohibited in the park totally. It's just prohibited near playgrounds and stuff. And then I had put in that information about what I'd found from OSHA and OPM. But if people know of the other sources and find them, feel free to add it in there. Does that sound like a good plan to stop here and pick up next time? So I think we could probably do that next time. And then the next article was curfew, I think.
Yeah.
Because I think that the one after that is prostitution, and I think that and pornography, which I think is going to be a real doozy to go through. So that might be I think needs to be its own, probably.
Do you think, I'm wondering, if it would be beneficial as we go through more of the criminal ones, if we had someone from the police department on the meetings to explain?
Yeah, I mean, I would love that. I guess I'm wondering from the timing perspective, from their time, would
It'd be a different person, whoever's on shift or something, right?
yeah, I would love it. We can reach out to Matt and ask him if that's possible, because that would make this easier.
Make it a lot of, yeah.
Yeah. Or at least, yeah. All right. Because
Now that, like the ones that involve police officers,
yes.
maybe not be part of that meeting, but
Yeah.
now that we're getting more into these criminal ones, maybe it would be helpful.
Well, and I was also going to follow up with Matt too and ask, because we had asked him a long time ago if he would go through and sort of give us a list of which ones they don't use, which ones they really want to keep. And I think right after that is when we started it. We like had a homicide, and then we had some other incidences that took up a lot of time. So I was going to reach out to him too and ask even that may be helpful if they provide us that as we're going through these, and then if they can also jump on, that would be awesome. But yeah, I agree with you, Sheila. That would make this a lot easier and faster.
How do the rest of the team feel about that?
I think it's a good idea. I think we should also not lose sight of what we had started to do at the beginning, and that is, where possible, have attorneys from both sides of an issue.
Yeah.
They don't want to dominate the conversation, but to offer their insight as to what they see, since they'll be in court on most of these things.
Fully
So-
agree.
So do you think, I'm trying to think like the most effective way to do that, would it be helpful if, like, say we took our initial pass through and then we met and said, hey, these were our thoughts, this is why, tell us where we're wrong, tell us where we could do it better? Would that make sense to sort of do it that way?
I think so.
All right. And that's what I was saying about ours being so complicated, because there's so much and they're so different from, some of them are so different from each other. And then it's a lot. And it's like, how do you do this the most efficient, effective way? So, okay. All right. So would it make sense for us to just sort of individually think about how we think that would look like, or who we would want to participate, and we can talk about that next time?
That's the idea.
Sure.
Okay, so we'll put that on the agenda too for next time. So I think if that's plenty, if we do finish the smoking, do curfew, and then talk about that. Okay, cool. Thanks, guys, for giving up your Saturday morning. I appreciate this. I mean, it's going to take us a while, but I think we're doing it. I mean, I think this is going to be really good. It needs to be done. Sheila, how late are the booths open at Art Outside today? Do you know?
Tonight, I believe it's till 10.
Wow. So okay. So I'm gonna come today.
Yes. Come visit Artists First.
I will. I saw you're doing, like, I could bring my dog and she can make her own art. I don't know. She's such a good dog, but I've never taken her to like a large public event.
Well, that's why it's good, because we're on the side, and
Okay. She would like that.
Doggy bandanas.
Awesome. Does anyone have anything else? Oh, I guess the next meeting, I know summer is rough. Do we want to like put out some potential dates for our next one? I'm just gone June 14th to the 21st as of now that I know.
I think like a month from now is June 25th.
Okay.
Which is good for me.
Does that work for everyone else?
It's good for me.
I'll take a look at the 25th and see what.
All right, and I'll follow up with Kevin. He ended up going out of town this weekend, so sorry, I should have said that at the beginning. That's why he's not here. All right, so Stefan, you check on that, and I'll check with Kevin too.
Okay.
All right. Oh, listen to those birds. They're so pretty. All
We
right,
have
well,
an owl, a resident owl, and it's awesome to hear them at nighttime, but
that's
wow,
cool.
they're loud.
Yeah, we had one on our like back line once, and it like turned its head. It was so creepy. I was like, that's really creeping me out. But they are cool. They're so cool.
Well, have a good day, everyone.
Thank you.
See you.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.